I was born in a little village called Bebalum in Chad, Central Africa. We had a comfortable middle-class living situation. Both of my parents were educated with careers of their own. My mother owned her own business, and my father was an elected politician in our local government. Our family was well respected within the community, and I was loved, nurtured, and provided with everything I needed as a young child. When I was 4 years old, my father spoke out against corruption in the government. Although I was too young to fully understand what was happening, I knew there was something wrong. Suddenly, the police started coming to our house asking for my father. Something in my mother's body language made it very clear that the police had become something for us to fear. The police started coming to our house every single day for months, following up to the day that changed my life forever. The day that my dream life became a nightmare. The knock on the door that morning was different. It was a lot earlier, and it was far more forceful. My father ordered my mother and I and my little brother to go hide under the bed that he was going to get the door. We huddled silently, afraid to breathe and afraid to make noise. We did as our father told us and hid under the bed. He went and got the door alone. I don't remember every moment of that day, but I do remember hearing a loud gunshot. And from that moment, my mother started to cry. She pulled me and my brother close to her and put her arms around us, as if her arms were some form of shield that would protect us from these men and their bullets. We waited patiently for what felt like an eternity. It took so long for the police officers to come and do a courtesy check around our house, and finally they left. And my father was gone too. There was nothing. Everything was taken away from us. My mother was left with 2 kids to look after. She had the grief of losing her husband and also the grief of finding another means to provide for her 2 kids on a daily basis. The loss of our father was not only emotionally painful for us, but it was also financially. Our friends and our family deserted us because we no longer had the one shoulder we leaned on. As the days and the months went by, my mother saw that Chad was becoming a difficult country, a hard country that she would not be able to support us while living there because our lives were also in danger. My 22-year-old mother found out that she was also pregnant. So not that she was only with 2 kids, she was also expecting another child at the age of just 22. We waited until my mother gave birth to my little sister, and in the middle of the night, we set off on an unknown journey to a nearby refugee camp in Benin. We walked about 2,000 miles to reach the refugee camp. When we got there, sadly, we got the news that the refugee camp was full. So, my mother wanting us to be somewhere that we can be seen, she made beds out of cardboard boxes. We slept outside the UNHCR office for 2 months on cardboard boxes before we were finally accepted into the refugee camp. Life in the refugee camp was not easy. We went days without food, we didn't have access to shelter and all of these other things, but we were getting used to it. And it's a life that I would not wish upon anyone. After living in the camp for a couple of years, one morning, the police officers from the camp came and knocked on our door. This time, I was terrified because I thought the first time they came, they took my father. So obviously, this time, they were going to take my mom. I was so young, and I didn't have power to save my mom. But my mother exited and went to get the door. And the police officers of the camp told her that there was a man looking for us. There was a man who knew our names, a man who knew our stories. As we looked, this man was my father. My father was shot, but he made it out alive. he was able to flee Chad with his life and find us in the refugee camp. Our family was united, and our hopes for the future was restored. We stayed in the refugee camp for 7 years. We sent our family documents to many countries, but we were not accepted. But after 7 years, the good news came that we were accepted to Australia. We had absolutely no clue where Australia was, but we knew that it was going to be somewhere peaceful, and we were grateful for that opportunity to be adopted into a new home. May 2007, I got on a flight for the first time, and we settled in Toowoomba, which is a 2-hour drive from the city's capital. Toowoomba was a nice and welcoming community. I went to the refugee camp when I was 4 years old, and I left and came to Australia at the age of 11. At the age of 11, the only word I knew was thank you. But I thought thank you meant hello. So I went everywhere, thanking everyone, thinking I was politely greeting them. It was so hard to fit in because kids my age didn't understand why I was the way that I was. They didn't understand why my skin was a little darker. They didn't understand why my accent was different, and they didn't understand why I was here in Australia. I started looking around to find ways or organizations or programs that were in place that would educate young people about the arrivals of refugees and migrants. Schools being the ideal place for education, I was disappointed to find out that there were not many programs around that did that by educating young people. So I wanted to find a way to give back to my community. I wanted to give back to the country that has adopted my family and has given us a second chance at life. So after doing a few investigations, I created Erase. Erase is about storytelling. It's using the power of narrative to erase racism one story at a time. A group of young people from refugee and migrant backgrounds who get trained in public speaking get in a car and set out on an anti-racism road trip. It is very exciting. After the group of students come together, we allow young people in schools the opportunity to ask questions. No questions are banned or censored. There comes a time in everyone's life when you have a project. The moment you have a project and you're excited about, you know that this program might work, and there comes a moment that you know for sure that it will work. That moment came for me when we were presenting at our first school. This young boy looked at us and said, "I think refugees are a waste of space and they should not be here." He looked straight at me as he said it, and I knew that he was talking about me. But I proceeded with the program, and at the end of the session, he came and apologized and simply said that he didn't know. It shows that just by sharing our stories, just by using my story and sharing and having a conversation with this young boy, he was able to understand our journeys a little bit better, and he was able to know that refugees and migrants are not just a waste of space. No questions are censored or banned. Most of the times we get the same questions, but we always get some surprising new questions. Just at a recent school visit, a young boy bravely asked us a question, and he said, "What class of flight did you come into Australia?" I looked at this young boy, and I was happy that he felt safe enough in his classroom environment to be able to ask us these questions. Because if young people have questions about refugees and migrants, the best people to ask are refugees. And the best people to ask are young people who are just like them, who have experienced hardship and trauma, that can use their stories as an example. I looked at this young boy, and we answered, and we said, "Economy, of course. We didn't fly into Australia on a business class, and he was shocked. So that just proves this type of stereotypes and stigmas that are held that young people carry on, but just a simple conversation and a simple Q&A session can change. I believe that no one is born racist. And as Michelle Obama once said, you can't hate from up close. Racism is a result of behaviors that go unchallenged and behaviors that just go without being questioned. But I truly believe that we can erase racism one story at a time.